This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Hello and welcome to Carbon Removal Newsroom. I'm Ross Kenyon, lead strategist with the Norway Carbon Removal Marketplace. Today I have with us Antti Vihavainen, business development at Puro. It's a Finnish carbon removal marketplace that has transactions changing hands, which is very exciting. And today our guest host is Alessandra Guerra of Norway.
Hello.
Thanks for being here, Alessandra.
Thank you.
Why don't you take it away?
All right. Great. Hello, everybody. Antti, why don't you tell our listeners what exactly is Puro?
Yeah, thank you very much also for the invitation to join your podcast. I've learned so much by listening to basically all of your podcasts so far. So it's great that you've taken the time and effort to share your knowledge, what you've learned. So Puro is basically a fairly straightforward marketplace where the ones that run a net negative operation, businesses, organizations that actually sequester CO2 out from the atmosphere can, have this activity basically certified, and then the certificates can be traded on the marketplace.
Okay. And so what brought you to create Puro? Like, what was the need that you wanted to fill?
Well, the basic reason for starting a marketplace was not that we wanted to make a marketplace and then figure out what to do with the marketplace, but it was actually the fact that we knew that and we know that there's too much CO2 in the atmosphere already. And although there are lots of very good, efforts and programs to reduce the emissions, and that's obviously vital for us all, the results don't really look that good. The CO2 concentration in the atmosphere still keeps on rising. So therefore, the logic was that let's figure out the way to accelerate removal of CO2 from the atmosphere. And then we've looked at something like 20 different methods for sequestering CO2. Many of them were not, easy to measure or easy to verify, or their, volume potential is not high enough. But then we basically narrowed down to 3 different methodologies and realized that these are also underutilized, and their development could be accelerated if there was a monetization mechanism around them.
Great. So then why don't you tell us, what are those 3 methods of carbon removal that you guys are focusing on?
Well, at the moment, we have sort of documented 3 different methods or methodologies. One of them is biochar, which is a very useful ingredient or product in itself, but it is net negative, and it's fairly easy to create then the additional certification around that. Then there's the other one, carbonated building elements, which is basically a concrete-like building element that its production consumes or sequesters more CO2 than the production emits. So it's actually CO2 negative. And then the third one is wooden building elements, which is basically, in its simplest form, it can be a log house where we know that the CO2 has been taken away from the circulation for a, semi-permanent or a very long period of time.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into biochar. So we at Norway too are very interested in biochar and exploring a methodology for that. And we are finding it a little bit tricky to see, the additionality, the permanence, and the net negative removal depending on the source. So tell us a little bit more about your biochar methodology and how you're addressing some of these issues.
Yeah, it's a good point, and biochar can be made for different purposes and for in very different ways. We are relying on the EBC, which is the European Biochar Certificate. It gives the basis for the quality, the permanence of the biochar. And then there separately needs to be a LCA or a life cycle assessment documentation that basically shows the evidence that the pyrolysis gases and the oil are treated in a way that it is carbon net negative. So you can do it in a way that it is not, but we make sure that ours is.
And I'm guessing it goes back to the source, looking at where's the source of this carbon or the biomass all the way through in this LCA.
Yes, indeed. That is one part of the methodology. Also, there are some restrictions of you can't transport the biomass from a large distance or so forth. So there are lots of requirements around that.
So then, with some of your biochar CORCs, which are your carbon dioxide removal certificates, right?
Correct.
Where's the supply of biochar coming for some of these CORCs that are coming from your biochar?
At the moment, there's one Finnish company that is very active and actually is running the largest biochar operation in Europe that is certified with the EBC. But now we are actually getting a lot of attention from various biochar producers from around Europe and also from other continents. So we hope to be able to certify also at least one Italian producer and perhaps some German ones in the near future.
Are these like forest-based? Like where's the actual carbon coming from, the char?
Preferably they are waste streams from, let's say, forest industry of some sort. That's obviously the best case scenario. Yeah, that's what we aim for.
Okay.
We ask because a lot of biochar people find us, and we always have to dig into those nuts and bolts. And it sounds like you are busy doing so yourself or relying on this other standard. But yeah, biochar people definitely want to be a part of carbon removal marketplaces. And it seems like your experience mirrors our own.
And so if you're focused on the waste streams of forestry or even agricultural waste, that could be a net negative CO2 sequestration, which is great. So Why don't you tell us a little bit about verification and how that works with Puro?
Well, the basic concept starts from the claim that is made by the producer or the supplier, as we call these net negative operation owners. They make a claim that they say that they are net negative and that they would be eligible for, say, 100 or 1,000 corks, as we like to call them, their certificates.
Oh, corks. I was saying CORCs. Okay, corks.
Corks, yes, indeed. So, and then we, in Puro, we make the first assessment that does it look okay. We obviously need to have, sufficient documentation related to the processes that are being used. Also, we need to have the accounting of production and also sales, especially in the question of biochar. It would be possible to use it for, let's say, steel production. But in that case, it would be obviously returning to the atmosphere very quickly. So we also require that the producer can show us that it has not been burnt. Once we make this primary assessment, then we hand it over to our partner DNV, which is a trusted third party that has been doing all kinds of verifications for hundreds of years. So we are not the ones doing the verification.
Right, a third party, DNVGL. They're a consulting company.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so how does one buy a cork?
Yeah, the mechanism is, for the moment, it is a periodic auction where the supplier can place some certificates that are in his or her account in the registry into the auction, and then they need to tell the floor price with which they are willing to part from the certificates. And then on the other side, there are buyers that are giving a cap price, basically a bid with a cap price, and the quantity, how many they would like to buy. And we are collecting these sales bids and purchase bids for 48 hours. And then the auction closes. It's double blind. And so nobody knows anything about the quantities or the prices that have been quoted so far. And the auction closes, and then the matchmaking happens.
And you've just done your first auction that was completed a week or two ago, you were saying?
Yes, a week ago.
So how often is this periodic auction going to happen?
Well, now we are running it every 2 weeks. It's a very tight schedule, but we want to learn as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Europe is going to go on summer vacation, and we want to complete 3 auctions before that.
So how many corks were auctioned off in the first one that happened a couple weeks ago?
We haven't really shared that information because everything would affect the next offers, both on the seller and the buyer side. We want to get as pure data as possible in the auctions, so that that's why it's double blind. It's not optimal. We acknowledge that, but the liquidity is not high enough for us to run an exchange where everybody would have the same visibility to the offer levels.
At some point, will this information be released, or will it be kept private for the foreseeable future?
The quantity information is likely to remain hidden from public for at least in the foreseeable future. But let's see. Obviously, we want to make sure that it is a marketplace that everybody feels comfortable with. At the moment, I can say that there were bids that were placed. Somebody wanted to buy 1 cork at price intervals of 0.1 euro and then 1 euro and then 5 euros and 10 euros, all the way to several tens of euros, and testing the waters, making sure that they know where the price goes and what sort of bids are accepted and what not. And then there were bids that were actually very significant volumes, that some of them actually were matched, some of them weren't. So there was we actually encountered all the variations of the different possible outcomes of in the matchmaking. So it was quite eventful, let's put it this way.
Are you, is your organization making money off of these transactions somehow? Is it a transaction fee?
Yes. There is a transaction fee of 1.5% from both parties, so altogether 3% at this point of time. Although this is in the case of, say, mixed cork auction, when if there's a sort of a pick and choose type of a customer that wants to have specifically biochar or some other specific method, then the transaction fee is actually higher. We want to discourage that in order to maintain as high liquidity as possible.
Oh, so you're discouraging over-the-counter transactions, wanting people to go into the auction that way.
No. These corks are not available outside of the marketplace at all. So the transaction always has to take place in the marketplace. However, it is possible. We are actually running 4 consecutive or simultaneous auctions within this 48 hours, so that it is possible to select either the one that is sort of mixed, or then a specific one of the 3 methodologies that are available.
Okay, so with marketplaces, you have to have inventory and you have to get it from it has to be created at some point. So Nori, for example, we are grandfathering in CRCs for carbon removal in soil carbon sequestration. How far back are you guys doing any grandfathering? Where are you getting your supply for corks?
I'm not sure if I understand that correctly, but we accept sequestration that has taken place maximum of 12 months before the issuance of the certificates.
I think you understood the question correctly. Is how far back okay. Are you going to be creating the supply?
Good.
Sorry, that was an American idiom for you, but you hung in there, Antti. You got it.
Okay.
So what are your future plans for Puro?
Well, this is actually an experiment. And so we wanted to find out if companies are willing to pay for actually removing CO2 from the atmosphere. That was the biggest question that we had. And now that has been sort of proven that yes, there are companies that are willing to part from their money and with that be able to, either balance their carbon footprint or in some cases also bundle these certificates with their main core business, which is I think a very exciting business proposition. Obviously, we have some other questions as well, whether we are, for example, able to attract attention with this, and whether we get inbound traffic into our platform, people that want to join it. If that's happening, then we believe that it indicates that it's a viable marketplace, so that we don't have to go and sell it every time separately, as we have done so far. So it is an experiment, and in the autumn we are going to basically make a decision of the continuation. At the moment, everything looks very good, and we hope to be able to enter a scale-up phase where we are basically getting rid of many of the manual steps that we have at the moment, and create a more, let's say, elegant user experience and more elegant way of transacting with the system.
I think that's a great idea. You guys are smart. You're starting, proving the need, and you're doing it manually, and then you'll learn from there and provide a more elegant solution, as you said. I love that you were testing this assumption. I have one last question to wrap up. The assumption that buyers are willing to pay for this. Can you speak to some of the motivations that you've seen speaking to some of these potential customers? Why exactly are they driven to pay for carbon removal?
I think many of these companies are there to learn. They want to understand how it goes, how it works, and what is the price. Obviously, this is a voluntary system, so most of these companies are not really obliged to do that. But obviously, they have other alternatives for compensating emissions available, and they want to understand how this one works. The other thing is that I think companies over here are also viewing this as a possibility for competitive advantage. If they can say that if they bundle these certificates to certain products or processes or services, and then they can say that particular service is carbon neutral, I think that's a key motivation factor in some cases as well.
All right. Well, congratulations to you and the team. I think this is a great step forward for all people working in climate action, and we'd love to see more of this happening, getting more carbon removal done.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on when there's newsworthy elements to update. We also admire how quickly you moved and the lean approach that you took to building a new solution. We like that. Things tend to not always move as fast or with that software mentality, so kudos to you, Antti, for doing all of that. And if someone,
thank you.
My pleasure. If someone wanted to learn more about what y'all are doing, what's the best way for them to do so?
Well, we have a website, puro.earth, puro.earth. So from there you'll be able to find out more information about the process and also download the methodologies if you're interested, and the rules for the marketplace as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. Alessandra, thank you for running the show. If you like the show, please give us a great review in Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Tell your friends, get the word out about carbon removal. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to make the conversation more about carbon removal. And Antti, thank you again so much for being here with us.
Thank you.